What is up, Tube users? I'm the Stereotypical Gamer, and welcome back to another installment of fantastically fun games for under $15. Today, we are talking about a great game that I played through all of last year, and it just got a huge update, and that is Delusion. This game originally piqued my interest because it came up in my Steam wish list like a couple years back, and I just like the simplistic RPG elements that it has, kind of like a Skyrim, but the art style is really what stood out to me. Just kind of has that retro feel blended with some Lovecraftian inspiration. It just looks so good and it plays so well. While it's definitely simplistic in just kind of the nature of gameplay, the visuals is what far beyond stands out compared to just everything else in this game. A lot of the elements are great. I think even though the combat and stuff is basic in this game, it is still really fun and really enjoyable. The world building is also just pretty good. It's not like as in depth as like a Skyrim, right? I believe this is only a single dev, but what he's able to create and just kind of the story that is played around in this game is phenomenal. And this was the game that inspired my first look initial playthrough series. I really wanted to get into these games, not just like try it out for an hour or two, but really get in, see everything that it has to offer, because well, I played this game before that series. I didn't really get into it much, and it's like I was teetering on the edge almost. It's like I really wanted to play this game, but I also just couldn't bring myself to play it for whatever reason, and so I finally just pulled the trigger, played through it, and oh man, it was a lot of fun. The combat and everything seems kind of basic at first, but once you get the hang of how the controls work, it actually is a lot of fun. And yeah, it did take me a while because it's not super clear. There's no real tutorial for things, but once you understand and have a hang of how things work and how to like cast spells while you have a sword out, or be able to use thrown weapons and different potions while you're still in combat and not having to pause, it really does make everything feel fluid and kind of unique in a way. I don't see a lot of games having this kind of really fluid controls between like sword, through bow and arrow, and drinking potions and casting spells, just kind of all combined into one in a really nice package. And yeah, I absolutely love the look of this world. I'm just a huge fan of like retro style graphics, and this definitely brings that retro feel to it. But I mean, and I'm also a huge fan of Lovecraftian stuff, and this definitely feels like it is inspired by H.P. Lovecraft in just different ways. I mean, I didn't think the first enemies I came across, the quote unquote goblins, were goblins, but after going into the lore of things, it actually kind of makes sense of how everything works. And I really love that, just how fleshed out the world is. There are obviously things that aren't that fleshed out because it is still in early access, and it just came out with a huge update that added more lore, more different world building stuffs, and a whole new like zone in the map. And so there's definitely stuff to work out, and that's kind of the problem with having an early access RPG like this, is you kind of just like, you don't know where it ends. Like I figured out where it ends because I just had nothing else to do, you know, and it was kind of confusing because you see where the next place you have to go, but there's no way to access this, and I just had to look online. So it was kind of frustrating for that, but that's kind of what you have to expect with early access games. But that shouldn't really take away from just how great this game is. It probably has, it's not a whole lot of content. You could probably get through the entire main story in like 10 hours, I would say, is probably what I got it through. And you don't even complete it, right? Because it's still an early access game, and it's still, you don't get to finish like the main quest that you're on. I won't spoil anything, but yeah, it's unfortunate for that, and I really hope that this new update allows that. I haven't played it yet, and I'm definitely going to, but other than that, this game is still phenomenal, and it's definitely worth picking up at the price point it's at right now. And even at its original price point of $20, I still think this is a fantastic game that everyone should try out if you're an RPG kind of Skyrim fan. But right now it is on sale, and it just hits under that $15 mark, so I have to recommend it for this series because it is definitely one of my favorite games. It probably would have won an award in my gaming awards for last year, but it's early access, and I can't include early access games. So maybe 2024 it'll have a full release, and I mean, it's possible that this game could be Game of the Year if they add more content that is similar to the content that's already in this game. I definitely think this could be a contender for Game of the Year for me. So we've gone over the good. Let's go over some of the bad, I would say, of this game. And obviously we went through it a little bit, that the fact that this is an early access RPG that doesn't have everything, but it fleshes out everything, is kind of frustrating, just because like I want to go to these places that are talked about, finish these quests and stuff, but I can't because it's not in the game, you know? So that can be a little bit frustrating. So if you're not a fan of that kind of thing, I would definitely just probably wait until it's out of early access. But it's still a great game. The only other thing that I do think could use some work is just the combat in general. Well, the combat is great, and I actually love how the combat plays. I wish there was different enemies. A lot of the enemies are pretty easily killable, and there's not really a difficulty curve with enemies. Like, there wasn't really any boss battles. There's just zones that have a lot of enemies, which those places were really fun to try and kill as many enemies as there were and just try and survive. That was interesting. But yeah, there was no quote-unquote boss battle. There were some, I would say, mini boss battles, but nothing like super huge. Anything that you slay, quote-unquote, that is kind of big story-wise, isn't like slayable through combat. You do it through different means. So I wish there was more harder combat in this game. I don't think there's like a difficulty setting or anything, so that would be one thing that I would really like to see. But other than that, I truly think that this game is phenomenal. Just the simplicity of RPG elements that kind of gives it a simplistic, like, Skyrim kind of feel, mixed with these amazing graphics. I mean, it's probably one of the best visual graphics that I've seen in a game, and it's for under $15. Is kind of just crazy to me. Obviously, it's not like your Call of Duty level of realism, but just the art style of everything, I absolutely love it. And the world building is just superb. I mean, the different characters you meet are all super unique, and while there's no like voice acting, it's all done through text. You definitely get a feel for each character and just kind of how this world works. There's different books that you can find that give you the lore of this world and how it was created, because it's floating islands, right? And it seems kind of weird that you're not like on Earth or anything, but the way that the story is told and how everything works is really well done, and is definitely a reason to check it out, just to get the lore of things if you're kind of into that in these kind of games. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like if you did, comment, subscribe, And definitely go check out Dread Delusion. It is a phenomenal game for just under $15 and is probably one of the best cheap RPGs that you can get out there right now. And with this huge update, I only expect great things. So, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.